Hello world. This is Spread, your channel for joy and positivity. We are here to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. May your holiday be filled with love, laughter, and peace. Stay blessed and keep spreading cheer. When my husband tossed a crumpled $50 bill on the counter and smugly told me to make a lavish Christmas dinner for his family, I knew I had two choices: crumble under the weight of his insult, or turn the tables in a way he'd never forget. Guess which one I picked? Every year, my husband Greg insists we host Christmas dinner for his family, which is fine except for the part where he treats it like some royal command rather than a joint effort. This year, though, he outdid himself, reducing my work and care to a single dismissive gesture. At that point, I decided I wasn't just going to cook. I was going to ensure he learned a lesson he'd never forget. It all started last week when Greg and I were standing in the kitchen, debating the plans for Christmas dinner. Or, more accurately, I was trying to discuss them while Greg was half listening, scrolling through his phone. "We'll need to plan the menu soon," I said. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and click the notification bell for more amazing stories. Your family usually expects a full spread, and I want to make sure we have time to get everything. Greg looked up, then casually pulled out his wallet, fished out a crumpled $50 bill, and tossed it onto the counter. "Here," he said, smirking. "Make a proper Christmas dinner. Don't embarrass me in front of my family." I stared at the bill, then at him, trying to process what I'd just heard. "Greg, this won't even cover a turkey, let alone a whole dinner for 8 people, I said. He shrugged, leaning casually against the fridge. "My mom always managed. Be resourceful, Claire. If you're not up for it, just say so. But I'll have to tell my family not to expect much. Wouldn't want them to think you're incapable." Ah, yes. His mother, Linda, the ever-perfect matriarch who could apparently conjure feasts out of thin air. If I had $1 for every time Greg compared me to her, I'd be a millionaire by now. I clenched my fists under the counter. The old me, the one who might have swallowed my frustration, was long gone. Instead, I forced a sweet smile and said, "Don't worry, Greg. I'll make it work." For the next few days, I played the role of the dutiful wife, letting Greg think I was stretching that $50 to its absolute limit. Every time he came into the kitchen, I'd casually mention clipping coupons or scouring sales just to keep him off my trail. Little did he know, I was planning something far more extravagant. Using the emergency stash I'd built over the years, I decided to create a Christmas dinner unlike anything his family had ever seen. But this wasn't about impressing his relatives. It was about showing Greg that I wasn't someone he could dismiss with a crumpled bill and a condescending comment. By the end of the week, I had everything planned. The menu was set, the decorations were on their way, and the catering team I'd secretly hired was ready to transform our home into a holiday masterpiece. Greg had no idea what was coming, and I couldn't wait to see his face when he realized just how resourceful I could be. Christmas Day arrived, and with it, the culmination of my plan. The house looked nothing short of magical. Garlands of twinkling lights adorned the walls, and the dining table was dressed in an elegant gold and red theme. Even the air smelled festive, thanks to the combination of freshly baked rolls, roasted turkey, and honey-glazed ham wafting from the kitchen. Greg, blissfully unaware of how far I'd gone, strolled into the dining room just as I was adjusting the last plate. His eyes widened as he took in the scene. "Wow, Claire," he said, clearly impressed. "I didn't think you had it in you. Guess my $50 really worked wonders, huh?" "Oh, just wait, Greg. Tonight's going to be unforgettable," I said, straightening a napkin. "I won't embarrass you in front of your family. Soon, his family began to arrive. As always, Linda was the first to step through the door, impeccably dressed and scanning the room with a critical eye. She walked into the dining room and froze. "Claire," she said, This looks like it cost a fortune. You didn't overspend, did you?" Before I could answer, Greg puffed up his chest and replied, "Not at all. Claire's learning to be resourceful, just like you taught me." "Oh, Greg," I thought. "You poor, oblivious man." Linda raised an eyebrow, but let it slide. Meanwhile, the rest of the family trickled in and showered me with compliments. "This is amazing," Greg's brother said, marveling at the spread. "How'd you pull this off?" "Claire has a talent for making the impossible happen," Greg said with a self-satisfied grin, clearly basking in the glory of my hard work. Dinner went off without a hitch. Every dish was a hit, and Greg's family couldn't stop singing my praises. But I wasn't done yet. When it was time for dessert, I brought out a triple-layer chocolate cake adorned with edible gold flakes, courtesy of the fanciest bakery in town. Gasps of delight filled the room as I placed it on the table. As everyone reached for their plates, I stood up, holding my wine glass. "Before we dig into dessert, I just want to say how much it means to Greg and me to host you all tonight," I began, smiling at the curious faces around the table. Greg raised his glass in a mock toast, clearly relishing the spotlight. "And," I continued, "I have to give a special thank you to Greg. Without his generous contribution of $50, none of this would have been possible." The room fell silent. Linda's fork paused midair. $50? She echoed. "Oh, yes," I said sweetly, turning to Greg. When I asked about the budget for this dinner, Greg handed me a crumpled $50 bill and told me to be resourceful. So I took that to heart. Greg's face turned a deep shade of red as his brothers snickered. Meanwhile, his father shook his head and muttered, "Unbelievable." "Of course," I added, "this dinner cost a little more than $50. About $750, actually. I used my personal savings to make sure everything was perfect, since I wouldn't want Greg's family to feel embarrassed." Greg's jaw dropped as he looked at me with wide eyes. Linda shot him a look of pure disappointment, the kind that could wilt flowers. $750? She repeated, her voice sharp. "Gregory, is this true? You handed Claire $50 to feed all of us." I thought she could handle it," Greg stammered. "I didn't mean—" "Oh, he meant it," I interjected smoothly. "Greg has this charming habit of throwing challenges my way. This one just happened to include a crumpled 50 and the expectation that I work miracles. Isn't that just amazing?" Greg's face flushed a deep crimson as he tried to regain control of the situation. "Claire, can I talk to you?" "In private," he hissed. "No need, Greg," I said, raising my voice just enough to be heard. "Let's keep everything out in the open. After all, your family deserves to know how you treat your wife during the holidays." Linda shook her head in disapproval. "Gregory, I raised you better than this. How could you put Claire in such an impossible position? Honestly, I'm embarrassed for you. So embarrassed." Greg's attempt to defend himself fell flat. I just thought—" "Don't strain yourself, dear," I interrupted. "You've made your thoughts about me and my capabilities perfectly clear. But since we're all about transparency, tonight I have one more little surprise." I reached under the table and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across to Greg. He eyed it suspiciously before opening it. The color drained from his face as he read the receipt inside. What is this?" he stammered, though he already knew the answer. Just a little Christmas gift I bought for myself, I said brightly. It's a weekend spa retreat. Consider it my reward for pulling off this lavish dinner on your generous budget. Greg's brothers erupted into laughter, one of them slapping the table in delight. His father, normally a man of few words, muttered, "Serves you right." "You can handle the cleanup tonight, Greg," I added, leaning back in my chair with a satisfied smile. "Think of it as your contribution to this year's Christmas." Linda didn't say another word, but her expression said it all. She looked at Greg as though he'd personally let her down, which, frankly, was the cherry on top of the evening for me. As the meal wound down, I let myself enjoy the cake with his family, while Greg sulked in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes. And that spa retreat, I'd already booked it for New Year's weekend. Greg wouldn't be joining me. Not this time, and not ever again if I could help it. Binding bonds through beautiful tales. Thank you for watching.